Welcome to another amazing episode of TheFatRat. And in this episode, we're going to install our Kubernetes cluster to our Turing PI. Now, here are some timestamps if you want to jump ahead and cannot wait. Now, let's dive in. I'm Garrett, and this is TheFatRat. So in this video, we are going to install our Kubernetes cluster. And to do that, we're going to use Ansible. Now, in order to do that, I create a repository specific for the Turing PI with all the things included to do so. We have used this before in previous videos. Check them out below. And what we're going to do is we're going to use that to install our cluster with Kubernetes. You can get the repository with the Ansible Turing PI configuration from my GitHub. Well, let's show that one. So we are now at github.com/ggrtimmer/ansible-tpi. And with this repository, you can configure your Kubernetes cluster and a lot of other things. We used this repository before when we actually were flashing our nodes. So we're using the same repository to install our Kubernetes cluster. But before we're going to install it, let's run through the required configuration. So clone the repository and let's jump to Visual Studio Code. So before we're going to install our cluster, let's run through the configuration. Now, clone the repository and let's jump to Visual Studio Code. And here we are. So first thing you need to do is set up your host. So you can do that in host.yaml. And as you can see, I have multiple Turing PIs here logged in, and we're going to install our Kubernetes cluster to my second Turing PI, which consists of 3 RK1 nodes and 1 NVIDIA. And here's what you need to do. You need to make sure that you can use this as a group. So for this, I created the group NLD, Netherlands, and I listed node 5 through 8 to install our cluster. Now, the second thing that you need to do is you need to update the group vars. So if you go to group vars and all, here you can see all the required configuration. It's a lot, but don't worry, we can run through it. And in each section of different rules that are being used, you can actually find the required schematic for using this configuration. So first thing we need to do is we need to set up a profile. So I set a profile K3S. That means that anything that's not part of this profile will be ignored. I'm not using any static network because I have assigned each node an IP address through DHCP in my router. And I have 2 zones, network zones. I have a Canadian and a Netherlands network zone. And within the zone, with the profile key, you can actually match which profile this zone is active for. So you can have multiple profiles within your configuration. Now, in this case, I'm using the .local address for my network. I'm setting the MTU to 1500. I am setting up the network which the entire zone consists of. The gateway, DNS, the BMC address, and the IP numbers of each node. And the routes key is actually used for tail scale if you want to set up a route to another zone. So that's the first part regarding network. Now, then we're going to continue on the actual K3S configuration. So with version, I'm going to install 128. Yes, because in a later video, I'm going to show you how to upgrade your K3S cluster with something like Rancher. And it will go fully automatic. So that's pretty cool. So that's why I'm installing 128. You can have multiple cluster configurations using the same concept like profiles. And in this case, the profile key actually matches the profile key over here. So Then we have the cluster. I'm telling it which node is being used to initialize the cluster and what the internal cluster domain is going to be. So normally that's cluster.local. I'm changing that because I'm using .local in my network. The master node is being set up. This is a virtual IP that will be created so that through this IP, I can always access the cluster, regardless which node is online. And I'm actually setting up an FQDN, master.k3s. That's actually within my local DNS server and will always be routed to .20 IP address. Load balancer, we're gonna skip that one because actually this has to be removed. So we don't need to bother about that one because this is moved to the configuration of our internal and external load balancer in our Helm charts, which I will cover in a later video. Control plane. Here we're setting up the nodes which will be part of the control plane, and with workers, the nodes that will be the worker nodes. Now, in this configuration, the control plane nodes will also act as workers because otherwise we don't have enough resources and we like to run a bunch of stuff. And in this case, all my RK1 nodes will be part of the control plane, but the NVIDIA Node 8 will not be. It will just be a worker, and I intend to use that one to run AI workloads. Finally, to set up is our Longhorn data storage path on each node. So on this path, Longhorn will create its volumes per node, etc., to make sure that this is where the data will be stored. And that's about it. With this configuration, we're ready to install our Kubernetes cluster. So we're ready to install our Kubernetes cluster. Now, what I'm going to show you will just be the install of the Kubernetes cluster. And the reason for that is that the playbook I've written can do far more than just install the Kubernetes cluster. It can also, before it installs, provision the entire server, configure it with certain kernel parameters, etc. Because I've already done that, I'm going to skip that part. It basically means that whatever command you're going to see, just do not include the -t for giving the additional tag I am using. Just run it without the tags and you will install everything part of the cluster, including the provisioning. So let's go. So we're going to switch to VS Code. Here we are. And we're going to open a terminal with command tilde. And what we're going to do is we're going to run the K3s playbook. So we're going to run Ansible -playbook, playbooks K3s. I'm going to give a -l for limit to our group where we're going to install our cluster. So node 5678. And I'm going to give it the tag install. So we're just installing Kubernetes. Now, let's go. So as you can see, it skipped a bunch of stuff. That is the provisioning I mentioned earlier. Now we just have to wait till the cluster is up and running, installed, ready to go. And I will see you in a few minutes. And we're back. And as you can see, everything went perfect, so no errors. So now let's see if our cluster is up and running. So what we're going to do is we're going to switch to a terminal. And here we are. And we're going to use the kube control command. So the kubectl command allows you to directly interact with your cluster. Let's just give this a very simple kubectl get nodes to view all the nodes in our cluster. And here we are. So we got node 5, 6, 7, and 8. And as you can see, all the roles, everything went perfect. We got 3 control plane nodes. We got 1 worker node, so node 8. And also in the future, I'm going to tag that as an NVIDIA with GPU, etc. But that will be in a later video. So the playbook also installs a tool called K9s. And this tool allows you to interface with your cluster from the terminal. So let's see if we can go into our cluster. So because the playbook also sets up your kube config with all the authorization to your cluster, everything should work out of the box as you just saw me do. So let's launch K9s. And here we go. So we are in our cluster. And as you can see, we are currently viewing the pods in our cluster. Don't worry if you don't know much about Kubernetes. There will be more episodes where I will go into more detail about it. But just follow this along. So we got in our kube system namespace, we got a core DNS that provides DNS services in our cluster. We got the kubevip cloud controller that's part of the kubevip setup we have. There are 3 pods on each control node. There's a kubevip running, and that is what I mentioned earlier in the video, the one that is providing that virtual IP in my network that is .20 to interact with our cluster. And here's a little secret, that is definitely working because the playbook makes changes to the kube config to ensure that we enter true IP address .20. So everything looks absolutely perfect. So in this video, I showed you how to install a Kubernetes cluster, tools, I showed you the access, everything tagged up and running. So if you like this video, please comment down below, smash that like button, please subscribe. It will really help me out. And in the future videos, I'm going to show you how to build up this cluster. And it's going to be pretty amazing. So thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. I'm Garrett, and this is TheFatRat.